It's Wednesday, September 16. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. We begin our newscast with an update from the Ministry of Health and Wellness on the latest COVID-19 figures across the island.
122 new cases of COVID-19 were reported by the Health Ministry over the last 24 hours. This brings the overall case number to 4,164. The number of active cases on the island now stands at 2,858. The ministry also reported that 17 persons have recovered from the virus, pushing that total to 1,180. The breakdown for the new cases is as follows. 30 were reported in St. Catherine, 49 in Kingston and St. Andrew. 27 cases were reported in Manchester, 4 in Clarendon, 3 in St. Anne, and 9 in St. Mary. 6 persons remain in government quarantine, while 25,741 persons are in home quarantine. 100 patients are hospitalized, with 25 moderately ill and 8 critical. At this time, there are 466 imported cases and 253 cases of local transmission, while 700 are contacts of confirmed cases. 239 are associated with the St. Catherine Workplace Cluster, and 2,509 cases are under investigation. To date, 62,026 samples have been tested, with results pending for 46 samples. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
A global education emergency. That's how UNICEF Executive Director Henrietta Fore describes the current state of affairs. 9 months into the COVID-19 outbreak, 872 million students, or half the world's student population in 51 countries, are still unable to physically head back to their classrooms. Ms. Fore warned of dire consequences if closures persist.
UNICEF recently surveyed 158 countries about their school reopening plans and found that 1 in 4 countries has not put a date in place for allowing school children back to the classroom. We know that closing schools for prolonged periods of time can leave devastating consequences for children. They become more exposed to physical and emotional violence. Their mental health is affected. They are more vulnerable to child labor, sexual abuse, and are less likely to break out of the cycle of poverty. For the most marginalized, missing out on school, even if only for a few weeks, can lead to negative outcomes that can last a lifetime. We know that beyond learning, schools provide children with vital health, immunization, and nutrition services, as well as safe and supportive environments. These services are put on hold when schools are closed. And we also know that the longer children remain out of school, the less likely they are to return. At least 24 million children are projected to drop out of school due to COVID-19.
The director was speaking at Tuesday's World Health Organization press conference, where UNESCO and UNICEF heads spoke on new published guidelines for the safe reopening of schools.
And this is the purpose of these updated guidelines that we've just published, to bring together the latest scientific evidence for policymakers and school officials responsible for the difficult, sometimes, decision to take in terms of reopening schools safely. And it will also require new and adjusted habits when the school reopen. And I would like to insist on 2 points. First, as we state in the guidelines, adequate information and communication would need to be provided to and between teachers, school administrators, and families in order for health measures to be properly implemented. And in addition, new protocols and rules will also call for rethinking the role and training of teachers, managing differently school time, revising learning content with increased attention to health issues, and enforced using remedial measures for learning losses. And we need to provide support for the educational community and most particularly teachers to be trained and to adapt learning in this new situation.
Here in Jamaica, the current date for reopening is Monday, October 5. However, the date remains tentative as the country continues to experience a rising curve of COVID-19 cases. The Parliament of Jamaica met at the Jamaica Conference Center in downtown Kingston instead of Gordon House for the second time in its recent history on Tuesday, September 15. The members last met at the conference center back in August 2011.
Having secured a mandate in the September 3 general elections, Prime Minister Andrew Holness led 46 Jamaica Labour Party members of Parliament and 13 senators into the temporary location, while Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, led 12 successful MPs along with 8 senators. In his address, Prime Minister Andrew Holness noted the challenges being faced by the country, but voiced his optimism about the commitment of the country's leadership on both sides of the aisle.
We must, in this term, institute a strong program of civic education in our schools. This is a conference of a deliberative body, meaning that you are here to exercise your judgment on matters of national importance.
Mr. Holness said despite his party having an overwhelming majority in the House, it is not the intention of his administration to ignore the voices of the opposition.
It is my intention to continue in a spirit of cooperation and in building partnerships for a prosperous Jamaica.
For his part, Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, congratulated the JLP on the victory at the polls, especially the female representatives.
I'd like to congratulate the government, which has emerged from a hard-fought election, and to also express a special word of congratulations to all the women on both sides who have been elected. We trust that their greater level of sobriety will help restrain the excesses of some members who have been present with us for some time. I won't call any particular names. I won't mention St. Catherine or any other parish, but just to say that we welcome the women in our midst. I'd like also, Madam Speaker, since he's here, to say a special word of farewell once again to the former Speaker of the House, the Honorable Ernest Jones. The only problem I have is that in his departure, he has left a lot of other chance.
He noted that challenging times are ahead for the nation's leaders.
We are in a unique time in the country at this moment. The global pandemic is certainly upon us, and the spread within and across communities in Jamaica has intensified. It is also the case that the economic fallout to all of this is quite severe. The reports recently from the Pbcj of 18% decline GDP in the second quarter is in itself stunning and sobering, but it also, I believe, reflects what we can expect in the third quarter and in the year as a whole. This situation is a challenge not just for the government, it's a challenge for the entire country. And in a sense, it is going to require a vital national effort.
The change in venue for the parliamentary session is due to the lack of seating space at Gordon House, as it is unable to accommodate the government's large numbers under the social distancing protocol of 6 feet apart, linked to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The pandemic requires us to work smarter and to be more adaptable and to find ways to increase our productivity. The fact that we are here at the Jamaica Conference Center rather than at Gordon House underscores that these are not normal times.
The change in venue brings into sharp focus the need for a new Parliament building, a point addressed by the Prime Minister.
This present arrangement, whilst I was initially concerned about it, I believe it probably could work. The new Parliament, which has already been designed but not yet built, contemplated an arrangement such as this, which is probably a more cooperative arrangement. And I would not be averse to looking at it, except that we would not want it to delay. But, Madam Speaker, the new Parliament is on the agenda still. But you would see that it is absolutely important that we proceed with the new Parliament. Our current physical arrangements would not be able to accommodate us and our business.
Construction of a new Parliament building is set to begin in 2021 and forms part of the National Heroes Park Redevelopment and Government Campus Project, which is a component of a master plan to redevelop downtown Kingston. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simona Absalom.
21 senators were sworn in on Tuesday for the new parliamentary term during the first sitting of the chamber convened at the Jamaica Conference Center on the Kingston waterfront. The sitting took place at the Jamaica Conference Center. The senators were later joined by their 63 counterparts from the House of Representatives. History was created on Tuesday, as for the first time the House of Representatives will have 2 women to serve as Speaker of the House and Deputy Speaker. Veteran Member of Parliament Marissa Dalrymple Filbert assumed the Speaker's robes and gavel. Second-term Member of Parliament Gillette Holness was appointed as Deputy House Speaker in her first major assignment in the administration. Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert says she will conduct the Parliament with the highest standard. The Southern Trelawney Member of Parliament is serving her second term as Speaker of the House. She first served during the Bruce Golding administration between 2007 and 2011.
Having been the Speaker before, I am aware of the awesome task ahead. And so, Prime Minister and members of the House, today I give you the assurance that the affairs of this House will not fall short of the highest standards. Members, you can be assured that in discharging my duties, I shall endeavor to be guided by the standing orders.
She succeeds the veteran Pernell Charles, who has retired from representational politics. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says that the job of the Speaker of the House is not an easy one and is confident that Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert will be firm and fair.
A tremendous weight falls on your shoulders, but we know that you will be prudent, firm, and fair. I'm confident that there will be order in this House.
Leader of the opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, also offered his congratulations.
I believe that given our past experience with you in this regard, that you will no doubt acquit yourself well, and we are mindful of your guidance to us as to the kind of order that you would expect in the House over which you will preside.
President of the Senate, Tom Tavares Finson, is proposing that the library to be constructed at the new parliamentary building be named in honor of late former Senator Jeanette Grant Woodham. Mrs. Grant Woodham, who was appointed the first female president of the Senate in 1984, died on September 8. Government Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith and Opposition Senator Donna Scott Motley have both endorsed the proposal. Construction of Jamaica's first purpose-built parliament is slated to begin in 2021. General Secretary of the People's National Party, Julian Robinson, says the organization has begun the process of selecting a new party president. This follows the recent announcement by Dr. Peter Phillips that he will be resigning. He reportedly says if the party fails to arrive at a consensus candidate, a formal nomination period will be set, during which persons can offer themselves. Bunga Herman, one of reggae's few remaining pioneers, celebrates his birthday today, September 16. The 76-year-old is a great instrumentalist who is able to coax a superior quality of sound from every instrument he uses. We learn more about Bunga Herman in this report from Marlon Samuels.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the one and only Mr. Bunga Herman!
Born in 1944, Herman Davis, better known as Bunga Herman, grew up in Trenchtown, Kingston. Bongo felt the call to music early on, and he began performing in the 1960s with a group. Like many talented musicians that came out of the Trenchtown experience, Bunga Herman would fuse traditional music with Rastafarian sensibilities. The master drummer, singer and songwriter's live performances often included a plethora of instruments. He would play a Nyabinge repeater drum, tambourine, vibra slap, chimes, maracas, kettle drum, and even an enamel chimney. What distinguishes Bunga Herman from other drummers are his rhythmic innovations and improvisations. This made him a standout, and he is highly sought after by the old and young. He has worked on many tracks for many reggae greats in his illustrious career, including the likes of Bob Marley, Jimmy Cliff, Richie Spice, Alton Ellis, Gregory Isaacs, Fantan Mojah, and Capleton. He reportedly played for Emperor Selassie on his visit to Jamaica in 1966, as well as Marvin Gaye and the Jackson 5 when they performed in Jamaica in the 1970s.
So being a man who believes in the Almighty God, I have to stay on my music trend. When I Selassie come here in Jamaica in 1966, I was one of them who go play a drum film at the airport and witness the lightning drop out of the sky and the thunder roll and the rain wet up everybody. I got to Montego Bay, it's almost the same thing too.
He's not just a master percussionist and a consummate entertainer. He is also a music historian in whom over 60 years of collective memories of the evolution of music in Jamaica resides.
Back in those days when we were creating reggae music, we never get paid. There's a man named Duke Reed who have 3 guns and a cow card. And if you don't play the music, go them shoot out the bulb out of the studio. Prince Buster, if you can't box, you can't collect no money from him till the next day. So, those days were 2-track. When you make mistake, all of us have to play back again. So them can't change reggae music. Reggae music remain reggae music. And when you go to Europe, you see that reggae music is the order of the day. Now you have a thing named dancehall. Them name it wrong. They should name it standoff. For when you go to dance, a set of guys over this, a set of girls over this, and one in the middle.
When he's not touring is a featured attraction at the Bob Marley Museum in Kingston. There he regales visitors with his musical memories, interspersed with performances. He remains to this day a reggae original, inimitable and peerless. The PBCJ salutes Bunga Herman on his 76th birthday. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
Gabriel Thompson now brings us the business report, where we look at the latest market movements.
In Thursday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 997 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 79 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 27 declined, and 9 traded firm. The Junior Market Index advanced by 10 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services, AMG Packaging and Paper Company, and Blue Par Group Limited. Stocks declined for Berger Paints Jamaica, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, and Carreras Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica, Caribbean Producers Jamaica, and Epley Limited 8.25%. QWI Investments Limited was the volume leader with just over 4 million units, followed by Millpack Group Limited with 2.6 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with 2.1 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Thursday, September 10, ended trading at $144.48. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $110.03. The pound sterling traded for $189.64, and the euro ended trading at $173.87. Oil prices fell further on Friday and were on track for a second weekly fall after U.S. stock markets tumbled and U.S. stockpiles rose unexpectedly. Brent crude futures fell 21 cents to $39.85 a barrel after falling nearly 2% on Thursday. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 11 cents to $37.19 a barrel, having fallen 2% in the previous session. Both benchmarks were down 6% for the week.
Just about 10,000 Jamaican children under the age of 15 are said to be suffering from diabetes. Data from the Registrar General Office and stating is that diabetic-related illnesses are the second leading cause of death in Jamaica. Naturopathic physician Dr. J.D. Wood says persons living with the disease must be more cautious of their eating habits so that they can live longer. Simone Absalom spoke to him and filed this Living Healthy report.
Without careful management, diabetes can lead to a buildup of sugar in the blood, which can increase the risk of dangerous complications such as stroke and heart disease. Naturopathic physician Dr. J.D. Wood says his research shows that diabetes is linked to a chemical called methanol, and it's in a lot of things we consume, which can cause long-term damage.
It is a natural alcohol that is produced from the deterioration or the rotting of wood or organic material. So if you were to make compost, you would naturally produce it. If you were to ferment some herbal products in a bottle, as many people do, bury it in the ground, it would ferment with the aid of yeast. If you make bread, it would also be accumulated in the bread through the baking process. So you understand that it is very, very natural, but it is very dangerous.
Since methanol is a natural element, why is it so dangerous?
We are bombarded with, so I'm listing all these things to give you an idea of the complexity of the problem. It is in cosmetics like estrogen. It is used in medicines. It is called an homeostatic. In medicine, if you get a cut, the medical people can use it to suppress hemorrhage. So you see the extent of it. It is used in fuels, right? Shellac, things like that. Now, what really happens with this thing is that it lodges in the pancreas and weakens the pancreas. If you drink sodas, for example, you may have about 12 tablespoons of sugar in that soda. And what it does to your pancreas is more dangerous than if you were to call a gunman and you put up your 5 fingers and say, shoot me on each finger. It would be safer to get 5 shots on each finger than the shock that you get on your pancreas. It's a very serious thing. You ended up with diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and so on, heart attack, and all that kind of things.
Research published in the Gleaner states that more than 220,000 Jamaicans between 15 and 74 years old have diabetes. This translates to 13.6% of the population. Since methanol is an issue, what can we do to reduce our intake of it?
The Chinese have done some work on it, and Dr. Ulla Clark, a very good naturopath, she has done tremendous work on this. So the methanol becomes more poisonous, affecting our eyes. So the solution is that you have to keep away from processed foods.
Eating healthy while living with diabetes means eating the healthiest foods in moderate amounts and sticking to regular meal times. A diabetic diet is a healthy eating plan that's naturally rich in nutrients and low in fat and calories. So get into eating fruits, vegetables, and whole grains.
If you really want to deal with the problem of diabetes, you can't just go to a doctor and rely on that, taking metformin. Every day you get a little metformin.
What does metformin do?
It does a lot of things. What it does is it tends to stimulate the pancreas to produce. But when it does it that way, it is doing it in a very artificial way, because the pancreas needs to be reformed and it needs to be rekindled, it needs to be repaired. Natural medicine seeks to repair it. Now, whenever someone wants to deal with that problem of diabetes and obesity, they need to get professional nutritional consultation. But I will give you some things that generally you can do. Eat salmon. Now, when you take hydrogenated fats, now the fat that you eat should be real fat. It should be the fat that God makes himself and hands it to us, not what somebody creates. Say vegetable oil was not made by God. He makes vegetable, but not the vegetable oil. One of the problems is that vegetable oil is cheaper than coconut oil. Coconut oil is what God uses, and that is why what the people in India, the Ayurvedic people, they have been using coconut oil as food, medicine, and cosmetics for 6,000 years. And that is why you find that these people live very long and healthy, right? So the outer cell of the body is lined with good fat. And it acts now as a membrane that allows the nutrients to pass through and toxins to be released from the body, right? Now, if you are using hydrogenated fats that are made from what you call now vegetable oils, that thing is absolutely abnormal, and it is not going to convey the nutrients and remove the toxins as it should. You're going to end up with hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and all kinds.
You can learn more about Dr. Wood's take on diabetes on the next episode of Blueprint to Health on PBCJ.
In regional news, we begin in Barbados, where the Education Minister is to meet with parents and guardians to discuss health protocols for schools in light of the ongoing pandemic.
With students set to return to the classrooms within a matter of days, Education Minister Santia Bradshaw will today meet with parents and guardians to discuss health protocols put in place for the reopening of schools. The ministry had invited the schools to select 20 parents from the Parent Teachers Association for the talks, which will be held at the Wildy Gymnasium. There will be 2 meetings today due to physical distancing and the need for strict adherence to COVID-19 protocols. Parents and guardians representing schools from the parishes of St. Michael and St. George will attend the meeting from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m., while those from other parishes will attend from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
The Heritage Library in Port of Spain, Trinidad, will become the home of the memoirs of the country's first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams. The original building at Knox and Pembroke Streets is in Phase 2 of restoration. When completed, the library will be twinned with Woodford Square and the Red House as landmarks in Port of Spain that have a close connection to Dr. Williams. Ian Wasson of TTT News has more in this report.
South MP Keith Scotland has described this country's first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, as a man who was beyond us. The first MP of Port of Spain South, Dr. Eric Williams, rose to prominence at which became known as the University of Woodford Square, just opposite to the Nalles Heritage Library. And this is where his memoirs will soon be housed, as explained by Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister in charge of communication, Simon de Nobrega.
It is the hope that at the end of this, what will happen is the Eric Williams Memorial Collection, which is currently being curated and housed at the Dr. Alma Jordan Library at UWI St. Augustine, will find its home here.
Current MP for Port of Spain South, Keith Scotland, explained why the Heritage Library will be so important to young people.
Before, when we were young, our hands, we used to play games, pitch marbles. Now the young people, that's how their hands go. We want to let them know that there's a history here that has brought us here. And you cannot rewrite history. Dr. Eric Eustace Williams is an important part in not just the history of Trinidad and Tobago, but the history of the Caribbean.
Mr. de Nobrega, along with his colleague Keith Scotland and the Nalles chairman Neil Parsonlal, were taken on a tour of the site by officials of UDCOT, the project manager. Ian Wason, TTT News.
And in sport, the spotlight is on athletics. World champion Tajay Gayle snagged a 3rd place in the men's long jump in Switzerland on Tuesday. Gayle secured his spot with a 7.99-meter jump in his first competition outside of Jamaica in a novel corona-affected track and field season. Finland's Christian Pulli won with a jump of 8.08 meters. Rashwal Sami of South Africa finished second with a jump of 8.04 meters. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.